Hello again, friends. I'm Covenant Ironface, and my partner Drekma Chris. We represent TeamNO. Yay! We finally get to see Spectre, the last and greatest of the James Bond films with Daniel Craig. And I seem to enjoy it somewhat.
Yeah, Spectre. There's all sorts of Bond films, so it's got a lot to stand up to, but it was still a pretty good movie. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it, of course. Our wonderful story starts with Bond doing Bond things. And while Bond is doing Bond things, he comes across information and clues leading to big secret organization. And what that means for the future of the 00 program, national security, and all that, as well as how it's actually affected him up to this point and what effects this secret organization has had on his life so far. That kind of covers it without giving away too much information, because, it's really hard to go into this. But beyond that, the story is Bond. We all know Bond. He's Bond. James Bond.
Yes. Blowing stuff up and sleeping with every woman in sight, except Minnie Penny. Daniel Craig, there's really not a lot to address with Daniel Craig. He is a phenomenal actor, and this role has been really well done. I mainly want to talk about the other actors, especially Dave Bautista. Actually, I think he should probably fall under your category.
Let's go for it.
But I thought it was hilarious, and I thought it was so amazing, because he's definitely come up from just being, big, dumb, jock brute. It takes a lot of it for an actor to be a silent role, and that means a lot. Jumping back to Goldfinger, you have Dave Bautista as an odd job type character, where he really doesn't say a lot, but he takes a lot of punishment, and that's pretty hilarious. The other female character does pretty well. She's a James Bond girl, so she gives him a little bit of a clue that leads him onto his dark and twisted path, fight forces of evil. The main villain of Spectre really doesn't get a lot of airtime, but what he does get is pretty brutal and pretty manipulative. I don't want to give away too much of what goes on, because I think you should see this for yourself. But he definitely comes off with the, I'm the mastermind, I've been screwing with you, and you're going to suffer for it.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good that that villain there, with how little he has in the movie itself, his presence is constantly felt, especially in a lot of scenes. We're like, look what I did. And like I said, and going back to the past, look what I've already done. Our supporting cast, Q and M, and a few of the other random agents around the spy, are the MI6/MI5 now, because of the merger thing. They all do pretty good. I like Q. I've always liked Q, even though Q has changed multiple times, just as many times as Bond has changed, I guess. But he does play a significant part, obviously, giving the technology, but he also helps James out quite a bit, including kind of betraying his own people in a way, if you can look at it that way. You have 48 hours. And M doesn't do that much that's important, but just the same as the villain, M has kind of got this presence, I'm the boss. You do what I say, I'm the super spy. Well, sort of. I guess James is super spy.
He's the super spy 20 years ago.
I was the super spy 20 years ago. I'm Bond Mark 1. Everyone else mostly doesn't really have any lines. He talked about Batista there. and doesn't do anything significantly important. There is groups of like villains as well. They're not necessarily henchmen, but part of this society that really kind of add to the main villain's influence. They don't do much, but the way they react to him just shows his power and presence. They all stand when he walks into the room? He says one simple thing and everyone's just dead silent. You can tell from how they react to him that he's a very important person. And they all did a really good job at that for what little screen time or lines they had. Overall, though, there's no one else really worth mentioning, no one else important.
One thing that is, I think, important to mention, I kind of spent like half the movie at least looking at the Easter eggs and references to older James Bond movies. And I think at least most of them got in there. I'm not sure if every movie got referenced somewhere, but they got a lot of them. Dr. No, Goldfinger, Live and Let Die, GoldenEye. Every era is mentioned, if not every single movie is referenced somewhere. And it's really interesting to see that. But the problem that I have with this movie is that it's so profound in the story and the background of James Bond that it really just doesn't have the energy of a James Bond film. I'm at no point really sitting there going, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? I'm not at the edge of my seat, and I'm really not that excited to see it. It's a really interesting story, and it's really well done. It's too profound on the other end of the spectrum from where James Bond is typically at, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It just wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over some stuff there, but I do agree in some parts where there could have been a more energy and more action than that. I think they did really well like they do in most movies, with the music for some parts. When the action shows up, you get this very intense, action music. All James Bond music is like that. And they did a lot for the scenes as well. It went everywhere from, Mexico, Morocco,
Rome, London,
all over, and Austria. That's where, and it all looked really good. So the scenes, cinematography, or music was actually pretty well done, but that doesn't help with there was a lot of downtime is the best way to put it. Like in other Bond films, there's a little bit of story in between, but we quickly move from action to action or something going on. If it's not action, a little bit of story, action, sex scene, action, more story. But there was a lot of story, which is important, I guess, for how epic this movie is, but for parts it felt like just a dead zone. We're talking. James Bond is doing more talking, and he's doing more talking. I actually got kind of sleepy for some parts of it. I think they should have maybe crunched that down, it sped it up somehow, or splashed some action in there in between. Even if it was just really simple stuff. That would have been much better, and probably kept attention for even those bits of downtime that we have.
I think this movie could best be described as an epilogue to the finale of Skyfall. Could you agree with that?
I think it stands on its own. I wouldn't call it an epilogue because...
Well, this whole thing from Casino Royale to Quantum of Solace to Skyfall to this has all been one continuous story mostly. And that's not something that James Bond typically does. But for the backstory and for all of the fleshing out of the James Bond character that we've never really seen before, that really kind of seems like they're wrapping it up to me.
Yeah, outside of the movie, there was mention that Daniel Craig may not be doing another movie. I think his contract is technically over for this, so we don't know where the future of Bond lays after this, and this might be the last of at least of Daniel Craig's era of Bond films. But overall, I would have to say it's a good movie. In my opinion, maybe skip opening night. It's going to be packed. There's a lot of people. It was a worthwhile movie, but it might be something that you want to see with less of a crowd, I guess. But still, you do want to go catch it in theaters if possible, or pick up a DVD copy if you can't catch it in theaters, because it is worth watching and probably watching again.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Next.
With Spectre, we have officially come to the end of our initial segment that we set up way back in April. So we're not sure if we're doing something next week, but we still have Mockingjay
And
and
Star Wars
at least coming up with the next month. Anything else you guys think you want to see or want us to check out? Give us a comment, give us a like, give us a share, see what's going on with us, and check us out next time.
Well, just as he was saying, if you like to listen to our rants, go ahead and click the like button. If you want to hear more and check out the next thing, go ahead and click subscribe. Otherwise, I think we're done here. We'll see you next time.
See ya.